Okay, so in this video we will discuss about IEnumerable and IQueryable and when we should go for IEnumerable as well as IQueryable. So the basic difference that we can see between IEnumerable and IQueryable are like first of all IEnumerable and IQueryable both are interfaces. Okay, basically in C sharp anything any type this is like a convention where if if there is anything which is interface they will be prefixed with I. So normally if you see anything prefixed with I that will be treated as an interface. Okay, if we want to cross check, so in here like see we want to see whether what is IEnumerable, so control like here and then we can say go to the definition. You will see here ki IEnumerable basically is an interface, and even if we go for this, so we'll say go to definition, and here also you can see IEnumerable is an interface. Likewise if we go for the IQueryable, we can see IQueryable also is an interface, and here we have on another IQueryable, we can go to their definition, and again this IQueryable is also an interface. So IEnumerable and IQueryable both are interfaces. Then as usual, like IEnumerable is present inside these collections like System.Collections package, it is present inside, and IQueryable is present inside the System.Linq. Again, we can cross verify from here. Like if we right click on IQueryable interface and say go to definition, so let's see what is the enclosing namespace. So the namespace that we have for IQueryable is System.Linq. So that's why we are saying like IQueryable interface is present inside System.Linq. However, if we see about the IEnumerable is present inside the System.Collections.Generic. So this way, basically they are present in two different namespace. Here we can also say we can add like generic. So System.Collections.Generic is the namespace inside which IEnumerable is present and IQueryable is present inside System.Linq. All the collections in C sharp implements IEnumerable interface. Hence, we can iterate on each collections with the help of IEnumerator type object. So what exactly does it mean? If we see like anything in C sharp, any collection, maybe list. So suppose if we create one object of list here, we just write list. Okay, and if we go right click and say go to definition, we will find that this list basically implements IEnumerable. Here we can see IEnumer without generics and one IEnumerable with generics. So like this, all the collection class we have in C sharp, they must implement IEnumerable. So what advantage do we get with IEnumerable? For example, like here we are trying to fetch the record. Okay, so this is I have used the entity framework. There I am trying to fetch the record, and inside that we are I'm trying to see only the record whose employee ID is greater than 2. Okay, so this is with for each loop that we can do. Another way of performing the iteration on that is like we can simply say maybe where result object we can say equal to, this is the result where we are getting, so I will write it on top, I mean here itself. So we can write like this where result object, or simply we'll say result just result set equal to result dot, since this basically it will be returning the list of employee info type. Okay, so definitely we saw list implements IEnumerable, and if we see what IEnumerable does, basically inside the IEnumerable interface we have one method called get enumerator. Okay, so this method basically will return the type of IEnumerator object on which we can perform. So we can call the method get enumerator, and on that we will get the object on which we can perform the iteration. How we can do? So we will simply say result dot get enumerator, and it will return us the type of IEnumerator type object, and on which simply we can perform iteration like we can say while result set dot move next. And this way we'll check whether result elements records are there in the result set or not. And if it is there, we will print here normally, like we can say result set dot current is the property, and then here we can print anything, like see all the properties I'm getting. So suppose I want to print the employee name, first name, as well as employee last name I want to print. Basically, this way we can print everything, all the properties, but currently just to save the time, I will print employee first name as well as employee last name dot employee last name. And even if I comment this code, still you will find we are able to iterate using this. So this we are getting when we have the object of type IEnumerator. If we execute it, let's check what exactly output are we getting. So you can see we are getting all the name, and that we have printed using this iterator object. So this advantage we get if a type implements IEnumerable interface. That is, we will be able to use get enumerator method for every collection classes, and then like this we can execute along with for each. So now we have both approaches, for each as well as while. So using move next, you will be moving to the we will be iterating towards the every record, and current will be pointing to the current, like every record at a time. So this facility we get when a type implements IEnumerable interface. Now, IQueryable is a child of IEnumerable interface. It means what are all the things that we will have with IEnumerable, that were things we can perform using IQueryable also, because IEnumerable. If we see the definition of IEnumerable, so here IEnumerable eventually implements IEnumerable interface. IQueryable inherit IEnumerable. So definitely what are all the properties, methods, or what are the members they will have, that will be inherited in IQueryable. Means get enumerator. We saw there is only one method inside the IEnumerable interface, that is get enumerator. So that basically will be present, that can be accessible from IQueryable interface also, and using that we can write the same logic that we were writing using the IEnumerable. So this is what basically is the meaning of indicating like IQueryable is a child, represent all the properties, what are all the things that can be performed using IEnumerable interface. Same thing can be done using IQueryable also. Definitely in addition to that, IQueryable will have some other properties or other members also, but whatever we can do using IEnumerable, that can be done using IQueryable also. IEnumerable or IEnumerable should be used for in-memory data object, while IQueryable is used for out-memory data object. So, what exactly it represent for in-memory and out-memory? In-memory in the sense, this is in context of C sharp, like where our object gets created in object at object in C sharp context only, the computations will perform. Out memory means something beyond C sharp, like here maybe we can perform the computation at database end, like that. So let's see practically what exactly the meaning of this line. So here, if we see the major differences between the IEnumerable and IQueryable, there is one major difference, and that will basically help us to identify when we should go for IEnumerable and when we should go for IQueryable. So like if you assume this is our .NET applications and this is database. If we try to access the record using IEnumerable, in that case what happens, all the record we will be able to fetch in our .NET application irrespective of what condition we have applied. Filter will not work. Like we want to see only few record, like suppose uh, in our database, if I show you here, so I have multiple record here, and I want to see the record whose id is greater than 2, for example 3 4 5. I want only these three record. Okay, but even though I have written the logic like where emp id is greater than 2, it means you know still if I'm trying to access this using IEnumerable, so I will be able to fetch all the record. Means the task of filter will not be performed at database side because I'm trying to access using IEnumerable. While if we access the same using IQueryable, in that case the filter will apply at database and only, and not at C sharp level. So here if we access using IEnumerable, first it will fetch the entire record, okay, and then it will bring to the .NET application, and in .NET application it will perform the task of filter, okay, like it will show only three record. But if we perform the same using IQueryable, in that case the filter, along with fetching the record, filter also will apply at database only. Means here IQueryable utilizes the computation power of database, and here only the task of filter will perform. So here, like we want only few record like three which is greater than two, so only these three last three record will be selected here at database, and only if we are writing the query using IQueryable. So this is the difference between IEnumerable and IQueryable. IEnumerable will perform filter at application level. That's why we were saying ki in memory object, while out memory in the sense ki here the task of filter, the record will take place at database end, and that's why we were saying it out memory object. Let's check it practically, like what exactly happens when we use with IEnumerable as well as IQueryable. So I will remove this line and we'll get back. I will uncomment the previous code. Then here here basically let's use first IEnumerable only, okay. Yep. So here we are trying to, this is the name of the table, and we are trying to fetch the entire record, and once the record get fetched, we are performing the filter, like we are saying ki, hey, we want the filter record where EMP ID is greater than 2. We want only those record, okay. And when once we get the record, using for each loop, we are printing the values employee ID, employee name, department, and so on. So if we execute here, I have my profiler executing, we can check here, I will clear all the data. And now if I run this, okay, using IEnumerable, so let's see what happens, and we will again execute the same code using IQueryable, and we will observe. This way we will be able to find the major difference between IEnumerable and IQueryable. So here we are getting all the record using IEnumerable. If you see, we had the type IEnumerable, and now at database, and if you see, like if I double click here, let me see the record. So here you can see कि even though we were executing the filter record, like where s implies s dot emp id should be greater than 2, but still you can see no filter is applied, only here says select, and then these many columns is getting selected, and then from, but you can see no filter is applied using IEnumerable. So what it does, this is what basically was showing, like even though we perform the any filter, that will not perform at database, and rather it will be performed at application level. And so what is happening, like in this, you here the record is getting, entire record is getting fetched, and once it is getting fetched, we are again performing the filter, and that is getting fetched at in memory, not at database end. And so we are getting here, like you see, no where clause is applied here because it is getting calculated at application in .NET level. That's why we are saying in memory object. But if we change the same to IQueryable, okay, so this time we will say ki we want to fetch the record using IQueryable. Okay, and now if we run, so what will happen, we are trying to fetch as a iQueryable, and then we want to perform the filter. So you will see कि this time along with fetching the entire record, the task of filter also will perform at database end, and that's why we say it as out memory object. Okay, so let's run and see when we execute using iQueryable what happens. So still we are getting the same output, but if we check our a query, so here if we execute this, you can see here this time when we executed using IQueryable along with filter fetching the record, it is also performing where clause at database level only, right? So here only it is performing where clause means data, undesired data, the data which we don't want will get filtered out here itself. We are only looking for the record who have employee ID greater than 2, and these records are getting filtered here itself, and only filtered record will be fetched to the or will be provided as response to the .NET applications. So this way iQueryable we can consider is little optimized. Why? Because we are getting only filtered record. However, in IEnumerable we saw first it retrieves the entire record and then it process at in a memory object. Okay, so there network traffic might it might cause the network traffic, it might degrade the performance of the applications. So whenever we have to perform any filter kind of job, then it is preferred approach that we should go for iQueryable. And if we want anything that needs to be calculated at application level itself in memory object only, in that case only we should go for IEnumerable. So this is what the basic difference we have between iQueryable as well as IEnumerable. I hope it makes sense for you. Thank you for watching.